Yes,
Okay, great.
recording started.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, again, welcome back, everyone. We know that 2 hours goes by very quickly, so take a few minutes, have some intros done, and keep moving along. We actually have two presenters who are yet to join, but we expect they will be joining us. We have a few participants as well who are a little bit late, but we expect them to join us as well. In the meantime, we'll just keep moving, keep things moving along. I hope that over the last few months that all of you have been giving some real thought, very serious thought to all that we've been discussing so far. Maybe even beginning to put some things into practice based on what we've discussed so far. During module one, of course, we had a very good introduction given by Mr. Terence Courtney, discussed the history of cooperatives, economic impact, co-op types, principles and values. And then we had module two, where we discussed governance, delivered by Pam and Donna. We spoke about organizational structure, bylaws, articles of incorporation. Ms. Denise Johannes as well made a very big, significant impact during that presentation. We spoke on effective communication, building consensus, conducting meetings. And today, we are going to put it all together and look into how to start a cooperative. How can we use all that information that we've gathered before and look into how do we start a cooperative? So that's going to be an exciting, we're looking forward to it. And I want to give a little intro to our presenters for today. But before that, just a reminder to all of us that the sponsors, the partners in this initiative include the Federation of Southern Cooperatives Land Assistance Fund, the West Georgia Farmers Cooperative, the UVI School of Agriculture's Cooperative Extension Service, the Office of the Lieutenant Governor of the Virgin Islands of the United States, specifically the Division of Corporations and Trademarks. And then we thank very much so the Southern SARE program administered by the University of Georgia. SARE, of course, stands for the Sustainable Agriculture Research and Education Program, which is providing all the funding to make this initiative happen. So to all, and to all of you, the participants, without you, this couldn't happen as well. So I want to thank all of you and all of our sponsors and partners in making this happen. Some other notes include the fact that responses to our surveys have not been 100%. And I want to reissue those links to you. It's important when it comes to our funding source. And for today, what we're going to do today is to make sure that before you leave afterwards. So as I reissue the links to the surveys for modules 1 and 2, please keep those in mind and please respond to them. We need your responses very, very much so. As we go through the training today, feel free as we get going to take off your video so that we can reduce our stress on the bandwidth. That's fine with us. At some point, we may ask you to put it on, but I think having it off for the most part is going to work really, really well. Okay. And so let me introduce to you our presenters for today, beginning with Mr. Terence Courtney. And as I said, Mr. Courtney presented to us during module 1, so he's no stranger to us. We thank him again and the Federation for being such good supporters in the territory. Mr. Courtney has had a long history of work in the cooperative field, but also in the area of work with nonprofits. From 2010 to 2012, he co-founded and directed a nonprofit called Atlanta Public Sector Alliance, which focused on issues related to public housing, healthcare, education, and transportation. From 2003 to 2009, Mr. Courtney was a co-founder and the first staff person for a coalition called Atlanta Jobs with Justice. This organization focused on civil rights issues, faith, intersected, I should say, civil rights issues, faith, student labor, and nonprofit organizations. And Mr. Courtney's organizing, administrative, and leadership skills facilitated the initial development of the coalition and its programs. 1997 to 2003, Mr. Courtney served as a statewide representative and leader for Service Employees International Union, where his ability to create an organizing strategy and provide needed education was key in recruiting, leading, and developing union staff members, volunteers in healthcare and the public sector campaigns in California, but also in Georgia. Today, Mr. Courtney, since 2018 until now, has been serving as the Director for Cooperative Development and Strategic Initiatives for the Federation of Southern Cooperatives. Mr. Courtney works very closely with regional staff, cooperative members, and members of the public interested in cooperative development. He provides organizational leadership, resource development, training and education, and he assists the Federation in managing international strategies, strategic initiatives, as well as national and region projects. And so there's a lot more we can say about Mr. Courtney, but Mr. Courtney, welcome back to our portal, and thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you. Should I begin, or
oh yes,
has been or Darnella?
One second. Miss Cooper, Dara.
Yes, sir.
Would you please, just post the agenda for us, just for a few, so people can see what's up for today. Okay.
Okay, we'll do right
Mr.
now.
Courtney, yes, you may begin.
All right. Well, again, good morning, everybody, and I'd like to just reiterate the welcome that Dr. Peterson just provided. I'm glad to be here. It's a beautiful day, beautiful morning, and I want to give thanks. I want to give thanks again to Dr. Peterson, the University of the Virgin Islands, the Lieutenant Governor there, and Sarah and everyone, Vanessa, and all the people I see, Dara at work this morning, helping to make this day possible and really providing us with an opportunity to have this conversation. It's really part of the mission of the Federation to work with other communities of color, especially Black folks, to proliferate this idea of economic power building and independence. So it's a great pleasure to be here. And I'm glad that you had that recap, because I was going to do just the same thing. If for nobody else, myself. I was definitely very proud to provide that first module, that session that really introduced folks to the cooperative business model, where, yes, as you said, we defined what a co-op is. We went into the history and types, principles of co-ops, and we compared cooperative businesses to traditional businesses. But I'm also proud to say that, my colleagues then took the torch and took this to the next level, because this, I believe, cooperative development is a thing of layers. And so, yeah, they talked about, well, now that you know what a co-op is and some of its history and principles, now let's learn a little bit about how to make decisions when you're a part of one, and how you do that in a democratic, fair, and loving way, if you will. So we also talked about the structures and bylaws. So this layer today takes that to the next level, where we want to kind of expand our understanding of what it is to start a co-op. When we begin to think about, or should I say conceptualize, the cooperative we'd like to develop, we have to start first with the components, the two key components that we've covered thus far. One is what a co-op is and how they operate. But I don't want to just take this time to talk for 2 hours or just to show a presentation. It's my intention to make this real and to get something out of it as well. So I also hope that to some extent this can be an interactive conversation. So for example, based on the first two modules, I'd like to know if there's anyone here whose concept or idea about a cooperative has somehow changed or been altered or improved in some way. I just love to know, as a place of departure for a conversation, where people are in terms of conceiving their co-ops. If we can, maybe we could take 1 or 2 responses.
How would you like those responses in chat, or you want people to unmute?
Unmute. Okay.
Any responses? Nobody?
All right. Well, maybe not then. So I guess
Okay, hold up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So this is Cecile Johnson. And personally, the first two sessions have been very informative, especially the last session where we had such intense information. And each time we get a chance to break into our groups and brainstorm. So, so far, I've learned a lot and I look forward to learning more. Thank you.
Thank you. And I guess my question was, before you came to these sessions, you may have had some idea about a cooperative you were interested in. Have these first two modules in some way changed or altered that concept?
I have received cooperative training for like a 23-hour class we did at some point, but it wasn't about the farms or anything like this. So this has been actually more intense in actually taking us to now how we're going to do it.
Mhm.
So,
Okay.
so this has been more as to what I need,
Mhm.
how we're going to do it.
All right. Well, thanks for that. Because I'm trying to learn as I go, and again, this interaction is important for me. I guess what I'd like to share about this idea is that one of the biggest concept changes that I am often confronted with when I'm working with new people or new groups is this idea that co-ops are not nonprofits. Co-ops are not nonprofits. I don't know how many folks here recognize that, but for some reason I do meet up with people who are confused about that. And they express shock when I put it in those terms. So it seems to me that many people have conflated the two models because both the nonprofit and cooperatives are developed to serve human needs or to meet some good. But I think there's something that we have to do to tease out the distinctions. There are many people, furthermore, who come from very progressive circles who reject the idea of profit creation on the basis that in most workplaces, profits are derived from the exploitation of a worker's labor by a business owner or an employer. And so thinking that a co-op is nothing more than when people come together, they engage in cooperative development, not from the point of view of trying to generate surplus resources for the benefit or of our collective or our community wealth, but they position themselves instead for charity and grants. So if I could, I hope I can share my screen. Host disabled participant. Okay, I can't share my screen. All right.
Working on that.
Okay. Thank you.
Can
All right.
you now?
Let's see here. I'm gonna give it a shot. Yeah. So I'm gonna go to my slides. Start here. So this is just a kind of a brief comparison that I want to engage you on, because there are real differences between cooperatives and nonprofits. And for the Federation, the purpose or the mission of our work is to create entities or enterprises that will not be dependent on charity or any kind of giving of others. We seek to create businesses or enterprises that are free and independent, self-sustaining, and that strengthen our community through economic development. So just briefly, when you look at cooperatives versus nonprofits, cooperatives provide surpluses or what some people call profits to members and investors, whereas a nonprofit cannot provide surpluses to members and investors. Cooperatives are funded by the sale of goods and services, whereas nonprofits are funded by charitable donations from communities, from government, and from foundations. Finally, cooperatives have no limits on the kinds of activities that can be engaged, whereas there are real limitations on what nonprofits can do. And I think this is an important point because we want to have the flexibility, the nimbleness, and the ability to really do what we need to do to build our communities. And so we need a tool or instrument or organizational form that gives us that much latitude. So we support cooperatives because the members, the workers, are the owners of these cooperative businesses. So what surpluses or profits are generated by a collectively owned business goes right back to the people from which it was created. So in this kind of economic relationship, the exploitive component is removed. So that's a point I just want to make clear, because as we conceive of our cooperatives, we want to make sure that we're thinking about building businesses that are going to generate resources, surpluses that can be redirected to our communities to build power and to build collective wealth. So I'll stop here and just kind of open it up for one or two people if they wanted to provide any feedback or to share or give me any thoughts about that.
There's a comment in the chat, Mr. Courtney, that you might want to respond to. And this is something I've been hearing quite a few times. One of the participants said that it is my understanding that the co-op itself is the nonprofit arm of a collective for-profit group.
Actually, that is really reversed. Again, a cooperative is a business. It's not a nonprofit. Now, some cooperative organizations may elect to create a nonprofit arm to raise money. The Federation does that. I here in Atlanta sit at our administrative office, and we're sort of the regional coordinator for the Federation. And so we have a nonprofit arm here out of Atlanta, and many of our state associations have a nonprofit arm. But that's just a tool on the side. Our main focus is not building a larger regional nonprofit. Our main focus is building cooperatively owned businesses that generate their own wealth, that generate their own resources. Because we have to understand, if we're going to build a movement to liberate our people, it cannot be dependent on the donations of some of the people who created this problem in the first place.
Okay. Hello?
Yes, sir.
Oh, can you hear me? Great. My concern or confusion, for lack of a better word, is that the cooperative itself is not a for-profit, not meaning non-profit, but the group is come together to operate as a unit for the individual participating farmers or group of people for the same purpose. So the group, the not-for-profit would not be, in my understanding, generating money for the cooperative, but it's a cooperative effort that generates money for the group members.
Well, a cooperative business is not just any cooperative effort. A cooperative business is a real legal enterprise that people use to generate profits. So it is not a nonprofit. It is actually a for-profit entity. The difference, again, between a cooperative and traditional business models that people may find exploitive is that, number one, the wealth a cooperative generates is created by its workers, its members, its owners, and that wealth goes right back to the people who create it. So, we want to kind of start to tease out this confusion, because I think as long as we remain confused, the way we conceptualize our co-op the way we go about building it will hinder us from being successful. You know, we need to walk away from this session understanding that a cooperative is a business, just like any other business you can imagine. The difference is it's collectively owned versus owned by one person or a small, tiny elite of investors.
Mr. Courtney, this is Denise Johannes of the Lieutenant Governor's Office. And I just wanted to add what the Virgin Islands Code specifically speaks to. What is the meaning of a cooperative corporation? And a cooperative corporation means that a corporation that is composed of ultimate producers or consumers, or both, organized for the purpose of conducting any lawful business, primarily for the mutual benefit of its shareholders, who may be natural or legal persons, and the earnings, savings, and benefits of which are to be used for the general welfare. And there is the confusion because most profit entities do not have members. Nonprofit corporations have members. And the cooperative is a hybrid between some of the features that you would traditionally see in the structure of a nonprofit and a nonprofit and profit business. So that's why it's its own legal entity and it's a profitable business.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And we'll move on from this, and we may continue to have to struggle with this, but I thank you for adding that. I think we have to realize that one of the beautiful things about cooperatives is that embedded in it are these principles that are essentially humanistic and egalitarian, which can sometimes look like a nonprofit. But again, the business of a cooperative is to generate community wealth. We're trying to build power, and we have to have the economic resources to be a foundation for that. And so we cannot be afraid of surpluses. I mean, when you think about it, most of the greatest things in history were generated because those societies had surpluses. The pyramids of Egypt got built because there was surplus food that enabled people to have builders and workers and mathematicians and engineers, people who didn't have to necessarily farm themselves. That's a result of surpluses. So let's look at it in those terms, that we're trying to build economic power for our communities.
Good morning. Can I say something?
Well, we're gonna move on, and I would say put your comments in the chat, and and later on in our conversation, maybe we can revisit it. So it's one thing to understand that starting a co-op means attempting to create a surplus generating, collectively owned business. But it's another thing altogether to actually get one going. A business can only be successful if the members and the buying public see it as meeting a need that they have. For at the end of the day, a co-op has to compete with other businesses. There must be a demand for what the co-op provides for it to be successful and sustainable. So as we mentioned in our first session, for the Federation, cooperative development starts with meeting a need that people have expressed or one that we have observed. And there are lots of ways to go about this. And one of the ways that we believe that you assess or learn what that need is to go out into your community and do outreach. One of the things that the Federation does is, we have staff people we call outreach specialists who go out into farming communities or rural areas or whatever the case may be, and touch base with the folks and talk to them about what's going on, what they need, what are some of the tools that will help them become more successful. And one of those tools that we use are surveys. We use those to go out into the community and do something to measure our success. So I'd like to share a new screen here, if I can, to give you an example. Okay. Now, this is a very simple survey that we used. If Ben were here, he could really share some of the stories that, a couple of years ago, we were working with some fishermen who were based out of Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina, and they wanted to create a fishermen's co-op to deal with the systemic racism they encountered in dealing with really big fish houses and docks and et cetera. So one of the things we did was to say, well, let's try to measure what's going on here. So we created a very simple survey. Not only did we as staff people, work with the fishermen to get these covered or completed, but we gave the fishermen themselves surveys to take out to their communities. And they ask questions that you really want to learn in terms of the seafood industry, like the size of their catches, the size of their boats. Are the boats operational? That tells us something about what levels of maintenance are needed. Do you need a dock? What are some of the other costs that are associated with being a shrimper or a fisherman? This is just one approach. You can have others, but I think you have to have some means, some way of getting out into the community and finding out what's going on, finding out what people really believe that they need and not assume from your own point of view. And I think when you do that, some very valuable things come about. One, once you get out into the community with your survey or some tool for, measuring the market in your community, you learn that what you're also doing is you're starting the process of developing relationships in the community. And one of the and when you talk about that in terms of cooperative development, there's a very big conversation going on right now, and it's all about how we create what are called ecosystems. Ecosystems being organizations, communities, networks of folks in the community around a co-op who also support that co-op because they see it's meeting a key need. So you want to get out into community, you want to go out and knock on some doors, talk to people you don't know, talk to people in a community that may not come to your meeting, but through that process, you're going to be building relationships. Also, you're going to gain valuable information and data. You're going to learn something empirical about what the level of a market is or what the needs are. And you could also look at it as a form of soft marketing for your future co-op. You're starting to tell people, hey, there may be a grocery store here soon, would you come? Starting to get the word out and starting to build a kind of a soft marketing campaign. So, once you've done that, I think you'll see a lot of opportunities come about. And that assessment helps you discover things and potential members and what customers need most. So I'll pause for a moment just in case, anybody has any feedback, or if anybody has an example of how they've gone out thus far to survey the community or to learn about needs.
Yeah. Hi, good morning, Mr. Terrence.
Yes, sir.
How are you?
Doing well.
Great. This is Kai Nelson. One thing I wanted to point out was something called survey exhaustion, which I think in speaking to community members, they've had a lot of people survey and say things. And what that has created now, I would say, is this kind of unmet expectations. So do you think by meeting our current environment with innovation, or saying, hey, we've done cucumbers, why not do pickles? Why don't we start pickling things, some value adds, and trying to bring that to the market? Have you seen in your past experiences that to be impactful, or do you still recommend going out and kind of creating soft launches?
Well, I wouldn't call it a soft launch as such, because at this stage, you're not anywhere near a grand opening for a business. This is part of you could say, the preliminary step of developing your market analysis. And some of this information may go into your feasibility study. And I can totally understand fatigue in terms of surveys, if that is regularly going on in the community, especially if it doesn't lead to anything, which can be, the troubling part, as you say, because people come to expect something that come from these surveys and nothing does. So in a situation like that, I invite people to think creatively about how to do some of this outreach. Nothing beats developing a relationship face to face, which can be difficult now, especially because of the pandemic. But we have to find some way to overcome that if we're going to get some kind of real metrics about the future success of anything we're proposing.
Good morning.
So once you've started to do that, then hopefully you've decided to do some outreach and you've gotten some feedback. And I think what happens when you do that is that information that comes back, that about what the needs are and what people really believe their community should be doing, really will inform the kind or type of co-op you need to build. So for example, if you live in a rural community of mostly farmers, what may be appropriate there based on what people say is to to create something like an agricultural or producers co-op, where producers, that could be fishermen, farmers, whomever, who come together to aggregate and pool their resources and create higher volumes that will get you bigger and bigger contracts and help you penetrate into markets that you could not do alone. You could consider consumer co-ops, where I think it was mentioned before, where customers, let's say, people who buy groceries, join a cooperative as consumers. They get price reduction because of the volume of people involved, but also they help create independently owned grocery stores and other buying places where people can get a better price, higher quality goods in situations where that may not be available. So a consumer co-op. So if you go out and you talk to people and people really demonstrate that that's something they want, maybe that's the type you should pursue. This is a big one, I think. Nowadays you don't see many credit unions in many local communities anymore. Instead, you see, at least here in Atlanta and the South, you see a lot of payday lenders, very predatory lending institutions in our communities, not only exploiting the labor and the work of people in the community, but also their wealth. Well, a credit union, which is a financial cooperative, could be an option if people feel like that's what they need. Places where regular everyday folks can get good credit, low credit, or have a place to save their money or to finance a business. A lot of options are open, with a financial credit or cooperative like a credit union. Housing cooperatives, that could be an option if that's the need that people express, or worker-owned cooperatives. Again, the beauty of a cooperative is that, those who work at the cooperative can also be owners of that business. Again, eliminating some of the exploitive practices and relationships that you might find in a traditional business. Any questions or feedback about that?
Yeah, I have a question. This is Bevan.
Yes, sir.
In doing a survey, I was just wondering, in your experience, one of the principles has to do with inclusion. Do you see animal husbandry or livestock farmers forming successful cooperatives with, let's say, crop farmers? Because just in doing a survey, I began to see a lot of differences in the needs, and sometimes it causes conflict down the road. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it really depends. I mean, there are no hard and fast rules, although there are, past practices. And you talk to different cooperative developers, you get different answers. For example, For me, my experience and my observation often points me to the direction of, well, let's look at the people who are most affected by the issue. What's the need? And try to build a cooperative around them. Now, if you have growers, farmers who grow vegetables and crops of that nature, and then you have ranchers or people engaged in animal husbandry, putting a cooperative together is possible. But what you have to do is find the right kind of model, and you have to find the right kind of markets where the needs of both sectors can be satisfied. Sometimes those hybrids are workable. My friend and colleague Pam, she loves the hybrid models. She's always trying to think of how to put, what might seem like disparate forces together. I take an approach where if from the feasibility of it doesn't seem workable, I advise folks to think about maybe two different co-ops. They may choose to go at it anyway. So there are no hard and fast rules. I think one of the parts of this conversation that I want to kind of leave people with is, as you engage in cooperative development, conduct a feasibility study. Not that that study by itself will tell you which way to go, but it will help illuminate some of the assumptions you may have about what it might be like to, say, put together row crop growers with ranchers. Okay, so along with, that, I want to talk about what it means to be a member of a cooperative. Membership is one of the key components and one of the things that really distinguishes, as it was said before, a cooperative from a traditional businesses. And it's one of the things that is egalitarian about a cooperative that makes people think that it might be a nonprofit. So membership comes with rights and responsibilities. And so let's consider some of those rights and responsibilities. On one hand, as a member of a cooperative, each member gets one vote. And that's one of the beauties of it, where no matter how many shares or how much investment that member has put into that particular cooperative, they'll never have more than one vote. And that's a way of leveling the playing field and creating the structure very horizontal, eliminating some of the problems you might see in some traditional businesses where power and wealth starts to accumulate in smaller and smaller hands. Another benefit or one of the great things about cooperatives is the benefits of that cooperative are returned to the member according to their use of the cooperative. That is to say, the more a member utilizes a cooperative, that more that member is helping that cooperative to be successful and to grow, etc. Thus, when there are profits, that member will get a representative portion of those profits in the form of patronage, or what people call dividends. So the more you use your cooperative, the more benefits are returned to you. And another great benefit of being a part of a cooperative, one of the rights you get is you get access to constant education in terms of economic development, organizational development, and putting together what it takes to not only build a successful business, but again, I'm saying cooperatives are also a tool for organizing our community and building power. Of course, there are responsibilities as well. And this is a piece that sometimes is overlooked, and that's the piece about member equity. Too often, folks approach cooperative development, again, from a nonprofit mindset. So instead of asking the members to invest in their business, folks go out seeking grants or maybe outside investors first. But I argue that no one's going to invest in your business or give you a really good loan if they see that you're unwilling to put your resources in it, if you have no skin in the game, as they say. So I think one of the key responsibilities of any member is to invest, put some equity into it of your own. I think that should be a requirement. Member outreach and growth. Over the lifetime of any cooperative, you're going to see a natural decrease in the membership. People grow older, die, age out, move. So a cooperative needs to engage in constant outreach, constant growth, not only to sustain itself, but to become a more powerful entity. Communication, as you learned in the governance section, is one of the key responsibilities of a cooperative. Members have to know what's going on, what's being done. We have to do our best to be as transparent as possible. And then also, not only must members contribute their resources to a cooperative in the form of equity, but you got to put some time into it. You have to volunteer. Everybody cannot be paid to support their cooperative. People have to believe in it for altruistic reasons and do what they can outside of their monetary contributions to help sustain the organization, to help it grow. And then finally, a key responsibility is really related to its principles, having a concern for community. Cooperative is not just an entity that will extract wealth from the neighborhood. It gives it back, and it provides support for other cooperatives in other communities where it resides. So I'm going to pause again, just to kind of let that sink in. And if there are any responses or thoughts, I'd love to hear it.
This is Cecile. I have a question. So how does your level of contribution monetarily affect your personal profit? Since we have one member, one vote, and you are encouraging us to, put skin in the game with our equity, how does that then affect distribution or disbursement?
Yeah. So again, you don't necessarily inside of a cooperative get more political power, as it were, based on your contribution. But by contributing your member equity, whatever the dues may be, and then on top of that, really utilizing your cooperative, let's say if it's a grocery store, you join, pay your dues like everybody else, but you get all your groceries from that grocery store, right? And then over time, the cooperative tracks the amount of use. So then when there are profits, then you get dividends based on the usage of that, your usage of a cooperative. So you may have two members, they both paid the same amount in dues. One uses the cooperative more than the other, they get a bigger return. Same thing with other forms of cooperatives. If you utilize it for all of your marketing, if you utilize it for whatever the case may be, your level of use helps determine your proportional dividends at the end.
Thank you.
I also want to say related to that, because there's so much to this that thoughts come in and out of my mind, because I think some of the struggles that we deal with in this regard is that sometimes we'll have situations where people may be, let's say, a part of a producer cooperative, a farmer cooperative, but they save their highest quality commodities, say cabbages or watermelons. They save those and go somewhere else outside of the cooperative to try to get a higher price for their goods and services. That happens in cooperatives, and that's a detriment to the cooperative. You're taking some of the best things you grow as a farmer and you're putting it out into the marketplace outside the cooperative, and you're benefiting from the low cost inputs the cooperative generates, but you're extracting from the cooperative when you take those commodities outside. So those are some of the things you have to be very cognizant of and work to mitigate. Because again, if you're going to take the time to put your investment and take this, risk to start up this cooperative business, you want to be sure that the people are as fully committed as possible and supporting that at every turn, if you can. Now that we've looked at membership, I think
Yeah.
the next step that we want to look at,
Awesome.
let's see it at a time. Okay, we're coming up on. All right. We're going to start to talk about feasibility of a cooperative business. And that's a critical step, and it's too often skipped over, even by seasoned cooperative developers. And it can have terrible consequences on the outcome. People can lose their investments, they can lose the confidence of the community, and potentially create a perception that neither the group leading this effort or the concept of cooperatives has any efficacy at all. And I think that does a big disservice, not only to the group attempting to organize the co-op, but it hurts the community's future prospects and perhaps even to some extent the cooperative movement as a whole. But before I go further, I'd like to, define what a feasibility study is. I have an answer to that, but I'd love to hear from you. Who on here has been through this process? If you've, gone through a business development process before, maybe you experienced developing a feasibility study. So I'd love to hear from you, get your experience. Who knows what one is?
So this is Cecile. In my own understanding, it is the creating a study to see if what you're attempting to do is what is needed and will be profitable to you. And in my own experience, in doing some research, for a farm, that was a very difficult thing. It shouldn't have been. Some countries have more information than others, but sometimes the people who were involved was so difficult to get questions or information out of them, and also the governmental bodies. So that was my experience.
All right. Anybody else? Okay. Well, similar to what you just said, Cecilia, we summarize it this way. A feasibility study is a tool used in business development to show how a business would operate under a set of assumptions related to financing, marketing, equipment, facilities, production, and so on. The result of the study will be an overall assessment of whether the business concept is technically and economically feasible. And why do we prepare a feasibility study? Why would you want this?
So we don't invest our money and lose it.
Yeah, right. I mean, one, just moving a concept to an operational stage is hard, it's difficult. And then even ideas that reach the operational stage have a high failure rate. So you couple that with the fact that business ventures in and of themselves are very expensive undertakings. And what you have is a situation where members, investors, lenders, they want to know, they want to be able to have some objective source to determine if the project is economically viable. I think that's a very prudent, practical, pragmatic approach. So I don't know why many people skip this step, maybe because it's a very tedious process in some regards, and people are often in a they're often in a hurry to get the business going, that they think that they know enough. But sometimes a feasibility study can tell you things you had expected and those you didn't. So steps in a feasibility study. I think number one, when you are looking at trying to get this done, you want to seek some kind of outside or independent consultant. You want to find someone outside of the organization perhaps unbiased by, the project or what you're doing, to have a look at this and to help you put together a feasibility study. You want to develop some assumptions to help the consultant conduct the feasibility study, such as, how and why is the co-op you're proposing needed? Who determined that? What are some of the reasons for this cooperative you're proposing? What is the potential membership base and volume of products that the project or the cooperative could be moving? How well or will the cooperative fit into the local market? What are the financial and organizational needs of the co-op or the project? All right. So you want to start to develop kind of a framework of assumptions. And the consultant who's working with you to do this feasibility study, will have some of this too, but this is one of the other pieces that you got to think about. What are some of the components of the study that well, typically you're going to have something like an executive summary that summarizes everything that's been the findings and recommendations. It's going to have an introduction. It's going to talk about the industry, the background of the industry, basic information of the industry, economic conditions, implications on the feasibility. You're going to talk about marketing, operational and technical characteristics. The feasibility study will cover some of your financial projections and statements, what people call pro forma statements. And then it's going to summarize again and make recommendations. So it's going to be a very comprehensive, very analytical document. But again, it's not a magic wand. It's not it can't tell you, for sure if your project will succeed or fail, but it gives you some very, very solid indications. And then once you have your feasibility study completed, the next step is for you to decide to accept or reject that study. And the decision to do that, is not necessarily based on the feasibility study itself, but what are the qualities in that study that help you think about what you need to do? Is it well crafted? If it is, and the outcome is negative, then you learn something nonetheless, because that negative projection, can help you save money or save your investment if necessary. But then also, despite that, you may decide, well, based on your own experience, though the feasibility study did raise some critical questions, you may believe that you should go forward anyway. It's going to be up to you, but use the feasibility study to help get the things in your head or assumptions or ideas in your head out onto paper, utilizing some metrics and some analysis. And then you make your decision from there. And then you just continue to make considerations after the study is completed. Continue to assess, continue to build on what that has, build on what's said by the feasibility study. All right. So I'm checking. Oh, we're moving along. We're a little early. I guess we can give folks a little bit more time if that's okay in terms of the breakout, because I think the breakout that I'm proposing might be, somewhat interesting and might get into a deep conversation. What I'm proposing is that we do in our breakout groups kind of a mini feasibility conversation, where I'm proposing that each breakout pick a type of cooperative based on some real business concepts that y'all are considering, and discuss why the co-op is needed. What are some of its advantages versus other businesses in the area? What are some of the benefits that this co-op brings to members or other people in the community? What's the potential membership base and volume of product, again, for that co-op? How will it fit into local markets? And what are the financial and organizational needs? Dr. Peterson, if you don't mind, I'd love to give folks time with this to kind of think this through.
I'm in agreement. I like the breakout session idea that you described, and I think it's going to be one that's going to take us a little more time than the usual. So to start early is good. To start early is good.
Okay. All right. So what should we give people, maybe half an hour with this, and then come back and do maybe 15 minutes of report back, and then we close it out?
That sounds fine. So half off to discuss, and then we can report. Each group has 5 minutes to report.
Okay. All right.
Okay, good.
So before we go then, I'll encourage folks to maybe take notes. I don't know if they'll be able to see this screen when they've broken out. So please take notes. Again, these are some of the questions that you want to deal with as you take a real world assessment of some of the cooperative concepts that you're thinking about.
So Dara, I'm going to ask you to facilitate the group sessions, but before we do that, Dara, is it possible to put this description here of the breakout session in the chat for everyone to see?
And we can all screen print the screen and then just keep referring back to it.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Okay. So everybody got that? You print screen it? Dara may have stepped away.
I'm here.
Yeah, okay.
I was just about to answer your question. So I just took a screenshot of it and I'm saving it so that I could send it in the chat. So I'm going to attempt that. I'm not sure that it will work, but I will attempt it anyway. And if not,
everyone can screenshot it.
Everyone who can take screenshots.
Everyone can take a screenshot.
So
here's a question though.
Can someone tell me how to do that?
The top,
right? What
the top button? You have a volume up and down. So the top volume, and then the side. So on the left, and then on the right side of your phone, where you turn the phone on and off, just squeeze them together.
I'm going to ask for one other way. Mr. Courtney, if this is a PowerPoint presentation, can you just copy the text and post it in the chat?
Okay, I can do that.
How will the business?
Let's see.
That's another way. So you can just.
Okay.
And
so,
for those, okay, go ahead.
I was about to say we're ready for the breakout. So I was going to ask you to facilitate that, Dara.
Okay, so the breakouts should get you into the rooms automatically. And we have Ray J. Joseph from breakout room 1 from the COM team here at Cooperative Extension Service, who will be recording. Dale Morton in breakout room 2, and Vanessa in breakout room 3. Leandra, you are in breakout room 2 as a backup with Dale Morton. And for those who have not done it before, Dale, are you on? I can hear you down the stairs, but your mic isn't on. So next to your share screen button, next to the green one, you see the record button? Okay, good. All right, so once we go into breakout sessions, you'll have about 15 to 16 minutes. And I'll hang out in the main room in case anyone has any technical difficulties or questions or anything.
Correction, Dara, we're going to give more time for this one. So it's about 11:10. So we're going to give a half hour. So at 11:40, everyone should be back, and you have 5 minutes each group to give a presentation.
Okay, that change was just made. So yes, it will be 30 minutes. And if anybody has any challenges, you can send me a message and I'll help you out. Or if for some reason you get kicked out with the wonders of WAPA or whatever else, I'll be there to bring you back in and move you back into your room.
Question.
No question.
How you get in the group? I wasn't here for the last one. How you get in
the group?
Right. So it will be automatic. It'll be automatic. So you don't have to do anything, and you'll just magically end up in another space. Okay, are we ready?
Ready when you are, Dara.
Okay, I'm opening all the rooms now.
Very good.
See you in a few.
Thank you. She asked what happened to the other two presenters, but I don't know what the answer is.
Okay,
yeah,
I'm gonna go ahead and start the recording now.
Oh, please do. Yeah, please do. Please do. Mr. Courtney.
Yes, sir.
Before I respond to Vanessa, any updates on Mr. Burkett or Darnell?
Oh, Darnella, I haven't heard from them. I texted him, I called. I don't know at this point.
Okay, I'll respond
Sorry
to
to say.
Vanessa. Thank you. Okay.
I'm going into each room just to verify that everyone who is recording has permission to record. Ray J, were you able to start?
Oh, I realized something.
Yes, I've started the recording.
Okay, excellent. So I'm gonna leave this one and go into another.
Okay, it seems as though yeah, it's recording now. Okay, it's recording now.
Excellent.
Done.
Okay, good.
Okay.
And they can range anywhere from $10 for a 5-pound bag all the way up to $30 for a 1-gallon bottle, if any of you have used it before. And that is kind of expensive since it's
Okay. Well, welcome back to the general session, everyone. And if you had a good time like we did, and I'm sure you did, you had a grand time networking with your colleagues, your group members, and brainstorming about the responses to the questions. So with 15 minutes to go, we're going to give each of our groups 5 minutes to report. And I know we had groups 1, 2, 3, but I'm not sure if you know what your number is. So let me just say, I know that Ms. Johnson is in one of those groups and she has been a reporter so far. So we'll ask her to do the same if she still is the reporter right now. Is that okay with you, Cecile?
I'm good. I took the notes.
Very good, very good.
So you want us to start?
Yes, please do.
Okay,
I have a
great.
question
Group
before-
3.
1 second. Dara, should I stop my recording or are you recording? I don't know. I think mine is still recording.
So everyone who was recording, it's probably continuing to record now, but you can stop it so that we can just have the breakout sessions in small chunks. If you want to stop it and then start a new recording, you can, but it is recording here.
Okay, good. I stopped mine. Okay, go ahead, Cecile.
Okay, so somebody please record. Okay, so group 3, we identified that our problem, type of co-op, we mentioned farm supply cooperative, right? And that did not preclude us, selling food. But what they identified as a problem was that trying to get farm supplies was so expensive in the Virgin Islands, including fencing and fertilizer. And so we asked about the question of composting. And so the issue of FSMA qualifications came up and all these additional regulations, right? And how the composting should be handled. So we found out that they imported 98.8% of the food, and it was mainly mainly non-Africans who were doing all of this. And a lot of the food was of poor quality and processed. And so we realized that not only do we need a farm supply cooperative, but we need a consumer cooperative where people could then buy things at a cheaper level. So the potential membership base are farmers, the potential consumers, so that's the co-op, the buying co-op. And then one of the major things would be that would then access them to not only good food, fresh food, organic food, but also farm supplies. Farm supplies is a big problem. One of the challenges that we noticed in the past, advantages versus other business. Okay, so our advantage is that the food that we're getting, one of the ladies mentioned quality ABC, and that many of the times we were getting C and what left. And so if we were growing our food there, then the people would be getting A and B, right? So that would be one thing. We also mentioned that there are things that are unique to the Virgin Islands that there's a potential market for. And so what we need is to have an administrative team who could help identify what those needs were someplace else and set up those kind of relationships so that we could get some capital that way. We talked about how will I fit into the local market? And make sure I answer the questions. Okay, potential membership. Okay, so that was how will the business fit? Okay, we thought that it was an excellent fit. The need for the tools and need for the grown food or the local organic food. And when we talked about an investment, we found that there would be some benefits. We would be addressing the food security issue because the people are in the islands living in a food desert. Financially, that would help because the cost would be cheaper to the people than the imported food. And then their health would improve. And so that's also additional benefit. So we'd have to invest some money in the advertising and the education. We found that many times our own people are not as supportive of our local ventures. And so marketing and building relationships to get them through that process of supporting us. It was said that other groups from their children come out of their diapers, they are being taught business. So we need to be doing the same thing, teaching our children business from there in their diapers too. We need a sacrifice and focus, and then the strong administrative board who are not necessarily farmers, who can help with the wraparound services, the accounting, the outreach, the marketing, order supplies, all of that. And then for the financial, we wanted to do a budget, looking at the crops that we could grow, and then what the gap would be with the shares, and then what additional resources would be needed, right? They said it was very hard to get money. I don't understand why they don't qualify for some of them farmer loans, but we know the deal, how it is. So what are some other things? Looking at the potential market of unique products like the herbs and stuff that are grown in the Caribbean, in the Virgin Islands, and helping them to create a market in the diaspora, which would then help to fund some of the things that they're needing here. Topsoil was a problem. So when we started off by identifying the fertilizer problem, then even a market for building our own topsoil. One of the ladies mentioned aloe and how it was used freeze-dried by a company in California. And since they have very thin soil in the Virgin Islands, then and aloe don't need a lot of water, then that's also a potential. So looking more closely into what you have and what you could then turn into something that you could use. Somebody mentioned not going after government grants. Again, this is a business, but looking to foundations who address food desert issues because you guys are suffering from a food desert. And they mentioned a co-op in Michigan who did that, and the Kellogg's Foundation. And I say we could find others in the diaspora who could help, right? So that took care of our financial challenges. I think if we had a whole lot more time, I'm going to type up the notes for the group, we could really move this to a level where we could actually see how to make it happen. And that's the end of my report. Thank you.
Wow.
Very much, Cecile. Thank you very much, Ms. Johnson. Good report and good work from the group. I appreciate that. And we look forward to you typing them up so we can share with everyone else. Thank you in advance. So next group, group two, let's see. I'm gonna have Ms. Osaze present.
She's muted.
Oh, she is. Ms. Osaze Shinwe, I understand that you're muted. I can't see. Yes, you are muted. Yeah, okay.
Right. Okay. I wanted to thank Ms. Johnson for that very exhaustive report. And I saw some overlap in things that we discussed. Our group came up with a somewhat complex model where we looked at the possibility of a health food grocery store and a farmer's outlet. So it would be a combination of a consumer. When we started out, it was a combination of a consumer and a producer cooperative. We thought it was a complex model, and maybe we should be looking at maybe something smaller, more concise. especially in light of some of the history of cooperatives here in the Virgin Islands and their need for transparency, the lack of structure. And so, excuse me, I'm right on the main street downtown St. Thomas, so I have some disturbances outside. And cooperatives that have gone defunct in as little as 3 years. And the question as to why develop this cooperative, the need for good marketing for farmers and producers, more time, giving farmers more time to produce rather than have to worry about being out there to sell. And did not have to be concerned with that. The need for fresh food, the need for better quality food was big. And we looked at, and I think I heard it before, that although there are no other cooperatives in our community, we have the majority of food providers acting as in cooperative manner. They have adapted what we believe is a cooperative model in the way they do businesses, and it kind of acts against other businesses coming in. All right, so we thought that would be important to keep in mind. We need another benefit would be the development of better products, better price structure for consumers, and the need for good marketing strategies and incentives to really bring our customers, our local customers into to purchase and to be a part of this cooperative, or to understand through education, intense education, the need for them to participate and to consume what we produce. Our membership base, again, it was quite broad. We saw the need across the entire community, of course, but we figure if you looked at teachers, which kind of fall within the GRS and the retirement system, and federal employees and SNAP recipients, if we could target somewhere in between there, that we would have a consumer base that we could market to. We figure any place that we would set up this business, it would be very important that things like transportation and parking be considered when we reached out to a location. The volume of products. We also looked at the fact that 97% of the foods in the Virgin Islands are imported, and we wanted to look at local growers. And because local growers right now, the volume is small, we found that we may need to start smaller and focus in on local buyers, and target a niche market of people who are really interested and really understand the importance of locally grown and sourcing locally grown and organic produce. Our financial and organizational needs, again, we talked about location and the buildings. Are there any things that already exist? And even the possibility of, instead of starting with one large location, starting with one small location and developing into smaller locations in important areas, in key areas. Since although we have a small island, some people stay kind of, in their area. Hold on a moment. And we also talked about the need for working capital. A lot of times businesses jump in, they're so wanting to start the business that they overlook the need for working capital. And we see that coming from members, investors, and lenders. And the importance of having a cooperative manager. Sometimes, again, that's overlooked. And if we had different sites, that each site would need perhaps a general manager, but somebody to really look after the business of the cooperative. Sometimes we know the farmers, we understand the farming aspect of it, we understand the producers aspect, but who is actually the person managing the business aspect of it? And we thought we would need a diverse board of directors who understand the various aspects of the business and could help to really make it a success.
So Sazid, thank you very much for that beautiful report. But
All right.
Thank you as well to all of the members of your group who contributed to the report. Thank you. I'm not sure who the last reporter is, but the last group, please present.
Hi, good morning. I think this would be Mr. Morton's group, if I'm not wrong, Dr. Peterson.
Excuse me?
Would this be Mr. Morton's group?
That's you. You're the last one, yes.
Okay, great. My name, good afternoon, everyone. Kai Nilsson, St. Croix, Virgin Islands Collaborative Solutions, LLC. Thank you for your moment. I think the only thing we didn't do here, Dr. Peterson, was come up with a name for it, but the concept is brilliant. We're looking at a territorial production of value-added products as it relates to coconuts. As I go through the list, you might hear a few repeating narratives, but it's because everything is related. So again, we're looking at creating a relationship that I think is founded with the Economic Development Authority of the territory because of its interest in having value-add productions be the staple of, I think, commerce as it relates to agriculture. So discuss why the co-op is needed. We saw that this would be a great advantage to move entrepreneurs from what we call the black market into what we consider the formal sector. So both in St. Thomas and St. Croix, I'm hearing that individuals on the side of the streets and they're, cutting coconuts and they're creating coconut water. But what about those coconuts after you've poured that gallon of water? What about all those different products that you could have, whether it be, I heard something about facial products coming from coconut. I heard a great idea that, hey, these local bakeries bring 5 pounds of raw coconut and maybe we could make coconut tarts from it. These are all great access into the local market that would really do really well. As we move into the potential membership base, hey, again, we spoke about, what kind of relationship are we going to have with our community? Is it something where people can just come and drop off their raw materials to us and then be introduced to the value add production of it? Or is it something where we just essentially create the formal platform? We handle all the back office paperwork, the CPA materials, and then we just allow people to kind of float in and out. Mr. Martin brought up a really great point here. We need to have a base of individuals who are actually doing the value adds, right? Crushing the coconuts, et cetera, et cetera. How well will the business fit into local markets? I think we just discussed. And again, the last bullet point, I think probably the most important, is what are the financial and organizational needs for this project? With the Economic Development Authority taking such a liking to this market space, we think we can be the poster child, right? We would come in, we would not only lease and utilize that space, but then we'd also be a proven product that the territory can now champion and say, hey, this is something that we did and we invested in. And here, look what's happening, right? We're using local produce and products and producing great market value from that. I think one of the last points I would want to make before opening it up to any of my club members or my team members, excuse me, is that, this takes away the financial burden from the co-op for having to go out there and get grants to buy these different, whether it be the press machine, et cetera, and really just focus on serving the community and realizing that there is a market niche that can be taken advantage of by these coconuts. So with that being said, I'd like to thank Miss Anna Francis, I believe her name is, and really the whole club for coming forward with this great idea.
Thank you, Mr. Nielsen. Thank you for the report. Thank you to all the members of your group who contributed toward the report. Thank you all very, very much. And we're getting near to the end and wrapping up, but I am going to give about 4 or 5 minutes to anyone who wants to have any general responses, comments to what was just reported on, or the general presentation for today. Anyone?
This is Terrence. Well, I'd like to say I'm extremely impressed by what folks were able to do in the short time that we gave them to kind of gel this over. The first group really excited me about their idea because it was really so focused on the equipment side of it. And, from what I can see, basically, equipment being so expensive, being so out of reach in many cases, especially modern equipment, that presents a lot of potential. I also like the second example, where it really focused in on a particular niche of the community, SNAP recipients. Really focused in on the teachers and the overlap between federal workers. I think that could really turn. And then finally, oh wow, I mean, you got me excited about coconuts. I want in. That was a great presentation. What I liked about that is it was very, very specific, very, very focused. Not to say that, any of the other projects that seem more hybrid-y won't work, but they will be more challenging, definitely. But when you have a very specific honed in target the way the last group had, I think, you know, it says a lot about the potential there, and to have that potential backing from the government, because that might be a really powerful exportable product, you know, such as coffee from Ethiopia. A lot of cooperatives in Ethiopia produce that, and their government supports that and helps them project internationally. So very exciting on all these fronts, and maybe in some ways they can weave together some future point where the value added coconut products finds their way into the local stores where the federal employees are, and somehow the equipment that the other producers help create conditions for even more value added and more coconut harvesting. Powerful stuff, exciting, and I love the way people use this as a real world springboard.
Thank you for the
Thank you,
opportunity.
Mr. Courtney. Mr. Nielsen?
No, the same. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay. Look, I appreciate as well. I agree with Mr. Courtney. A lot of work was done within that short period of time. Really impressive, much less if we gave you more time. And I'm looking forward to the kind of synergies that can happen real time based on all that was presented today. And don't forget now, a reminder to all of the reporters to prepare for me some notes, send them to me, and I can share with everyone else so they can have for their records, and even perhaps for some implementation at some point later in the future. Anyone else? Okay. Well, I want to thank again all of our partners. I want to thank you for being participants as well, reminding you that our partners are the Federation of Southern Cooperatives Land Assistance Fund, the West Georgia Farmers Cooperative, the UVI School of Agriculture, specifically the Cooperative Extension Service, the Office of the Lieutenant Governor of the Virgin Islands of the United States, specifically their Division on Corporations and Trademarks, and the SARE, Southern SARE program. I want to thank you all, but before you leave now, reminding you that the next meeting that we're going to have, the next training, someone has a hand up, 1 second. But the next training for us is going to be same time, 10 a.m. Atlantic Standard Time on February 11, 2021. And this time we're going to be speaking the next time on cooperative finances. We're also going to have the poll in a couple seconds for you to complete your surveys today before you leave. And again, I'm going to remind you that I'm going to resend the links for the evaluation forms for modules 1 and 2 to have those of you who did not complete them, please do so complete them so we can have that for our records, and our grant funding requires that to be done. Before we go to the poll, a hand was up, I think it was Ms. Johnson. Anything?
Yes, I just wanted to say, when I listened to all the pieces of the different things that we were doing, it would be wonderful if we all came together, you know, external to this as we come out of this course, to address it, because some of the things that we address in our group are actually tie into the other groups. And then the coconut is a great example of learning to see what you already got and how to utilize it, you know, seaweed, that you already naturally have, aloe, like you probably naturally have, and any other herbs and things that you have. So I think together we would be able to get a real idea of the full scope of what's going on in the Virgin Islands and how to help.
Great, thank you so much, Ms. Johnson. Thank you so much. I think we have a lot of potential with synergies, and I agree. I think 2 more hands are up. Will allow you to ask if you have a question to ask or comment to give. I'm not sure who the 2 persons are.
Yes, it's Linda Muhammad. Good afternoon. I'm so sorry, but I missed today's event, and I just got in on the recap. But I just wanted to know if these meetings will be available to us to review, because I really wanted to be on this one. I don't know how I.
Sorry you missed, but
I'm sorry.
Sorry you missed, but thanks for keying in at this time. But the answer is yes. We're going to send all of you the recording for this session.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. I have a class at this time now that classes have begun. So I've been trying to tune in, but I got so caught up, I totally missed the time. Okay. But in the future, I'm going to do my best to certainly do that. even though I'm lecturing, I still want to be a part of it. I don't want to miss, so I'm glad for the recording.
Thank you very much, Dr. Koro.
Dr. Peterson, Vanessa.
Yes, yes.
If everyone can turn on their cameras, I would like to take a screenshot so that we can have it for our record as well. So if everyone can turn on their video cameras for me, please. I would really appreciate it so that I can take a few screenshots.
And we're keeping attendance too.
Okay.
Vanessa?
Yes, who's calling me?
Let us know when you're finished.
It says to start video, but it's telling me that my Zoom can detect my camera. So I'm here, but it's not, I don't have a camera.
Okay, so I'll just get the ones who's there, and hopefully the next time I'll do it again, and I'll get everybody. So smile big. Cheese. I have to do it a couple of times, okay? Because it's 2 screens, okay? So first one, and give me a second. Yes, I'm trying to work with technology, and sometimes it doesn't want to work with me. And now number 2, smile, people.
Wow, look at all the beautiful people.
Yes.
Something in the water down there.
My iPad is being used for homeschooling right now.
It's the coconut water.
Right, I agree.
And the seawater.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think I got it. Thank you all.
Thank you all. Thank you all. And now that I'm looking at the screen, I'm gonna actually point out somebody, because I know someone had a question earlier, didn't get to ask it, or comment, I should say. I'm not sure if he wants to do so now. Mr. Olani, I'm calling on you because I know earlier you had a comment or a question that you didn't get to pose.
Yeah. Well, like a comment, as I would like him to make sure he distinguish for-profit corporation from that of a regular capitalist corporation. You know, when they come in terms of for profit, that's how I was trying to make sure you clarify. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Yes.
And then the only one more thing, they talk about the nonprofit, those grants and things you get from the federal or certain donor does come with some condition, you know, and it doesn't necessarily complement your goals that you're trying to achieve sometimes when it's a nonprofit. And for profit cooperative, that give you unlimited resources that you can see. That would my comment in terms of that.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Cordy?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, especially at the end, because it's a refrain that I want to come back to, that what really makes the cooperative model a powerful instrument in my mind is that, unlike your traditional capitalist model, where the owner of the enterprise exploits the labor of workers and controls the means of production, a cooperative is the opposite, where the people themselves own and control their own productive capacity and its own potential to create surplus wealth, not just for themselves, but their entire community. So for the Federation, cooperative development is a tool to build economic power alongside political power. And we know they go hand in hand. So I'm glad you raised that. So that's why I have to emphasize that a cooperative is not a nonprofit. We're not here to exist on the charitable donations of anybody. We're here to build our own sustaining, self-governed power. Now, in terms of the profits, again, everything goes back to the members because they're the ones who generated it.
Thank you very much for that response, Mr. Courtney, and Mr. Olani for posing the comment to be responded to. The last person I'll call on, because I'm not sure if the concern or question she had was one that can benefit all of us, is Ms. Forbes.
How did I know you were going to call me?
Yes, you know that. I knew you had a concern or question for Ms. Johannes, so I'm not sure what it was, but maybe if it's going to benefit everyone, you can ask it now or comment now.
Okay, so it's kind of something that we spoke to in the last one. I was actually contacted, and I'm watching this screen because I'm actually doing something on the other screen. I was actually contacted by someone who actually wants to have a business that's name is very similar to my farm's name, Miss Johnson. And so they reached out to me because they're asking for consent to utilize the name they want to have. However, I don't feel comfortable giving them consent because their names are so similar, and what we want to do is also extremely similar. What do you think about the situation?
Well, Miss Vanessa, I'm going to say this to you when I have on my director's hat. The choice is yours, whether you grant consent or not.
Okay.
We, as the Office of the Lieutenant Governor, does not give advice.
Okay.
Entities are prohibited from using similar names. If there's a name that comes up, we will let them know who the name is similar to and provide the contact information. And it's that person's responsibility to reach out, as they have done with you, and dialogue to see whether you are in agreement of doing it or not. If you choose not to, the person will have to come up with another name.
Okay. So then the other question was, okay, I know they may come up with another name, but would that put them into the opportunity to come after my name at a later time if they so choose? Yes.
Well, keep it in mind, it's very important that when you're registered with the Lieutenant Governor's office, if you are a trade name, the trade name must be renewed every 2 years. If you don't renew it, it becomes available to the next party that files a trade name application and submits a fee. If you are a corporation, an LP, double LP, triple LP, or LLC, on an annual basis, there's an annual report filing that is required. If the annual report filing is not filed timely, there is penalty and interest that are assessed. And the corporation division is required to administratively dissolve entities for non-payment of the annual fee or the franchise tax for 1 or more years.
Okay.
So it's not a situation where you create your business and you forget about it.
I
And
understand.
also cooperatives are required to be registered with our office. There will be assessed a franchise tax based on the amount of capital that they're using to conduct business.
You said that the last one. Thank you.
So not only for you personally, but the cooperative that is being established with this group, making certain that you're following all of the applicable laws under the United States, Virgin Islands, and the US will make certain that you have the viability for years to come.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms.
I'll
Johannes.
still be reaching back out to you.
Thank you,
I
Ms.
can
Johannes.
give you
Thank
an
you, Ms.
advice as a
Forbes.
business owner. Don't do it.
I wasn't.
Sorry, don't allow
I
it.
wasn't
Don't do it. Yeah. Don't do it.
No, don't
kept it
allow
very
it.
simple.
Get yourself up and going. That's what we need to
Yeah.
know.
Well,
Right.
thank you for the question, Ms. Forbes. Thanks for
Sorry,
the
they don't even
response.
allow it on a federal level. It don't make no sense to do it locally. You can only put yourself in trouble.
Well,
Thank you for the
she's not going to be putting herself in trouble. I mean, I've seen all sorts of things happen where if you want to use the name, okay, you can pay me a fee annual or you can pay me a fee monthly. Those
there you go.
are all the different things that people explore. I mean, keep in mind, business is business. You're trying to.
Yeah. That's good to know. Thanks for sharing.
Very good to know.
And keep in mind, I'm just sharing with you practices. I am not giving advice.
Yes.
Thanks for the question, Ms. Forbes. Thanks for the response, Ms. Johannes, and thanks for the advice, everybody else. Good
Ms.
learning,
Johannes.
good interaction. And so, Ms. Francis?
I'm
Okay.
sorry, excuse me, I was asking if she could please put her contact information again on the chat.
Ms. Johannes? Okay.
Sure, I will do.
Sure. Good
And does
interaction,
everybody have
everybody.
WhatsApp? Does everybody have a WhatsApp number?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I just want to say that my experience is when I go to the Lieutenant Governor's office and I have to go to that trademarks and office, Ms. Johannes and her staff is one of the most helpful group of people in any government agency that I experience. And it's just always a good experience and they're extremely, extremely helpful. So Ms. Johannes, thank you always. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to preempt. Thank you. I'm also going to preempt my discussion. We are going to have in this coming year informational sessions on the online catalyst system. What I have exposed most persons to was just the law, but we are going to be probably next month. I'm trying to pick some dates and have it on a more regular basis for persons to go through the catalyst system. Is going to be a 2-hour block where I go hands-on and deal with from registration to filing and all of the nuts and bolts with the catalyst system.
Great information, Ms. Johannes.
You're
Thank you very
welcome.
much. And I've gotten so many beautiful comments about your service and about you. And I was a beneficiary myself, as you know that, a couple of years ago when I walked in to address some issues on behalf of a committee I'm a part of. So thank you always for your support, Ms. Johannes.
You're welcome, and I will continue to serve as much as I can.
And so we are about now to go to the evaluation portion of this training. And I will ask Ms. Cooper to facilitate that for us with a poll. Ms. Cooper? Oh, it's up. Okay, fair. Please, everybody, take a few seconds. Please respond so we can have this for our records. Thank you in advance.
Where is it?
It popped up. It's right there.
It just popped up on my screen.
It's on the screen.
Is anyone
Not
using,
mine.
are you using a mobile device?
Yeah, I'm on the phone.
Yeah.
Okay, look at the very, very, very top of your screen and see if you see small text that says poll in progress.
Poll in progress. Okay,
Yes. Go
okay.
ahead and click on that.
Thank you.
Dara, how do you respond? I'm trying to enter response, Dara.
It's not giving me an
But
option.
you're co-host, so let me unco-host you.
Oh,
And
yeah.
uncrown him. All right.
Okay, taking off my crown.
Uncrown me as well.
Uncrowning you.
Oh, I see, that's what happened.
Anyone else want to be uncrowned?
Okay.
I'm in the mood. Let's go. The rest of us are a calm team, so we're good. Tony, can you go do the poll? Uh-oh, where'd you go? Sorry, we don't have any elevator music for you, but.
Someone can sing.
I think Dean was starting to sing.
Are you volunteering, Denise?
No, I saw Dean's lips moving, so I think he's starting to sing. Go right ahead, Dean.
I was asking 1 to 10, describing the increase. 1 being least, 10 being most.
Yes.
Okay.
Good question. Thank you.
Mr. Joseph, thanks for posting the agenda in the chat. I will also email it to everyone at the same time.
No problem.
That's a bad echo. Your voice just sounded like a...
Like he's God.
Like...
It's 2 computers in the same room.
Wow.
Oh,
Hey, Vanessa, I sent you a question in the chat room.
Okay, let me finish the poll. I'm getting stuck a little bit here.
Yeah.
We're doing well with the poll. More than half of you have completed it. I wish we had prizes.
Virtual prizes?
You need me to cook up some virtual snacks? I can do that.
I'm hearing a lot of good ideas for the next meeting. Music, snacks.
I said virtual
Some
snacks.
coconut water.
Coconut water.
You
I
know, the
look for-
coconut is a very diverse. I mean, in the old days, the coconut, you drink the coconut, you cut the coconut dried, and you made that brush. You remember that they used to clean the floors with, polish the floors.
Yes, yes, yes.
You use the coconut to make kaya, the
Yes.
bed mattress, right? So if you could refine it, you could do that, and you could make cushions. The coconut oil you cook with, coconut oil I use on my head to toe. So then you drink the water, and then I have a little pocketbook that I bought that was shaped out of the coconut, you know, the shell around the yeah. So it was they made a pocketbook out of it. You see how many things you could do. Then you could do your
Yes.
skin products. So it's really the value added piece is where we're losing out. You know?
Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
I attended a coconut workshop about 4 years ago in Guyana. That a 3-day workshop that talked about all the diverse, anything from bricks for building homes to, you know, and the developer, the person who suggested it, proposed it to the government of Guyana, lives right here in the Virgin Islands. So that's something we may want to address.
Yeah.
Good comments. You know, many decades ago when they developed this list called the 10 most useful plants in the world, coconut has been on the list consistently ever since. One of the
So
10
how
most
many of
useful
those
plants in the
plants
world.
are in your area? All the 10
I forgot what the rest are right now, to be honest. Coconut is on my mind.
But you remember one of the ladies mentioned aloe, right?
Yes.
And I'm telling you, seaweed has 90-something% of the nutrients out of 100 and something, right? If you could grow some moringa too. I'm talking about your local pocket.
We grow all of that.
Like a weed here, Ms. Johnson.
So then you shouldn't have any malnutrition problems because that's a food. So Mr. Peterson, how do we get to see I'm like, how many farmers you got in the island? I don't even know how big the place is. I guess I could go do some research, but is there already something that's already done so I could get a better view of what's happening?
One of the best recommendations is to take a look at the census that was just completed about a year and a half ago.
Okay.
And you should be able to look it up. Look up census, agricultural census of the USVI. And if you don't find it, email me. But that's a good single source of where to go and find answers to your questions.
Okay.
I thought a coconut added value was an excellent idea, but I was questioning in my mind the amount of coconuts we have that can make that viable and consistent.
Right.
We have to do some importing of coconuts to make that really value. But the moringa side is something I've been toying with. I have a bunch of them in my property, and I've been making teas and trying to come up with other ideas of soaps and what have you from those moringa leaves. So I think that would be a super product to do value added with, because like Vanessa said, it grows like weed. So you could have people just picking the leaves and bringing them to the co-op, the process in whatever form we come up with.
Yes.
That raises the issue of the processing and plant that we so vitally need here in the Virgin Islands.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. I mean, it sounds like a processing facility is going to be a key component for all of these, especially when you talk about value added products, be they derived from coconuts or other plant material. You know, having a place that's cooperatively owned and managed is going to be a key input.
I could connect you to a friend of mine, one of my board members. He imports moringa from Ghana, and they have it's not that hard, this whole processing thing. You know, it's that solar whatever dome that you dry the thing in and, you know, ground it or whatever. But I don't think it's that high overhead. So that may be something we could look at, you know.
Dara, where are we with the evaluations?
I actually just sent you that information.
So we're finished?
It appears that there are 2 left, but I want to verify because people have left since we started the poll. So I'm wondering
I
now
see it.
if the number
I see it. Okay.
Is there anyone else still doing the poll?
Right.
No.
Okay, let me ask this question a different way. I've learned to do this. If there's anyone that is still doing the poll, could you let us know? Because otherwise I'll get 23 no's.
Okay. So apparently everyone.
I think we are done.
Yeah, it seems that way. Okay, good. So in wrapping up, I want to say a few things. It's interesting that one of the last comments made a few minutes ago had to do with the importation of moringa from Ghana, you said. Because there were 2 other presenters who were supposed to join us today and just couldn't. Based on what Mr. Courtney said, they're in a very rural area and I guess may have had technical difficulties in joining us today. But one of them is Mr. Ben Burkett, and he is with the Mississippi Association of Cooperative, and so is his daughter, actually, Darnella Winston. So I appreciate their willingness to be with us today. Perhaps they can join us at a different time. But one of the things about Mr. Burkett, when I looked at his bio, is that he's had lots of international experience. And one of those experiences took him to Gambia. And what he was working on there with farmers is trying to create a network of exchange of products, sales of products, businesses between Africans in Africa and Africans in the West, so-called African Americans, okay? And so he would have had a lot to really bring to us here today to share with us about his experiences internationally and on the US mainland. And we look forward perhaps at some other time to engaging with him, okay? As I said before, our next session, make a note of it, is on February 11th, 2021, 10 a.m. Atlantic Standard Time. And I want to thank very much our communications team, Ms. Dara Munifa Cooper, Ms. Leandra Kent, Mr. Ray J. Joseph, Mr. Clavier, Matthias Clavier, for their support, because without their help, we just couldn't manage all of this today. So thank you very much, communications team. Thank you again to all of our sponsors. Thank you to all of you participants for making this a reality. And if there are no other comments, we've been with you for 2.5 hours so far of your day. We appreciate the time because we know you have lots of other things to do. Be reminded, I'm going to send the links again for modules 1 and 2, evaluation forms that is. Please respond to those. I'm also going to send you the recording from today's session, as well as the bios for today, even those who didn't show up presenters, and the agenda for today as was requested. Okay?
Well, it's the best way to start a new year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed my time.
Akil, I know members of my
with all of you. Go ahead. Yes, Mr. Smith.
Yeah, I know members of my team wanted to get contact information for each other. Is that possible, to get a specific contact of the members of Group 3 in particular?
Oh, okay. We did that. We did that initially after group session 1, and we can do so again. Yes.
Okay.
In other words, members within a group want to communicate, correct?
Yeah, the follow up. Yeah.
Okay, yes. Great. So we can do that again. I'll either send the master list or just the group list or both, so that you can communicate with your team members in between sessions, which is a good idea. Okay. I'll make a note. I'll make a note to do that. Yes.
Thanking Vanessa Forbes and Dale Morton also for assisting with communications and recording today.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes. And Tony did not, Tony? Mr. Morton, Ms. Forbes, thank you as well for your support to the communications team in managing the group sessions and recording. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, did I miss any thank yous? I hate to miss thank yous, but it happens sometimes.
Thank yourself.
Okay, everybody. I really enjoy my time spending with all of you, interacting, sharing, and I really wish all of you a pleasant day. And please continue to think cooperatively, and see you next time on February 11th, 2021. Okay?
Great hosting.
Have a good day. Thank you.
Great. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Uh,